After a much-needed bye week, the Mountaineers are back in action to kick off the second half of the 2025 season. We're going to talk about the matchup between West Virginia and UCF here today on the Walk Thru GameDay Show.
Look at what happens when you're consistent, again, in all three phases of the game. Look at what happens when you're focused and you don't have the mental breakdown and the MAs that prevent you from doing exactly what they did in Stillwater.
Rich Rodriguez has a strong backing. Ken Kendrick, Pat McAfee, Ike Moore, so on and so forth. There's a lot of people with deep pockets that are ready to help this football team win.
Your lightning in the bottle guy is your lightning in your bottle guy. So sometimes you can't put him in that role because he's going to get beat up and nicked up throughout the course of the game, which does take away from his flashiness and his ability to make big plays.
Give me the Mountaineers, baby.
But yeah, this rivalry it's a lot of fun. It has to keep going.
Let's go Mountaineers all day, every day. Let's go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the Walk Thru GameDay Show. We are glad to have you with us. It's been 2 weeks since we've been on this particular show. Obviously, with the bye week last week, West Virginia now getting to start that second half of the season. Try to forget about what happened in the first 6 games. Really, no one wants to talk about it anyways. But West Virginia 2-4, 0-3 in Big 12 play. We'll get into that matchup between West Virginia and UCF here in a little bit. A look at today's rundown. What is reasonable patience? Obviously, with the recent firing of James Franklin at Penn State, a lot of people talking about the leashes of coaches around the country. We'll talk about that globally, but also here with Rich Rodriguez in West Virginia. The biggest obstacle, what is the number one thing that West Virginia is going to have to hurdle over to get back into being nationally relevant in today's landscape? And then we also have our trivia question of the week, our Napoleon's Dynamite players to watch, and of course our game preview and pick'ems to round out the show, which I almost thought about getting rid of again this week, Gene, because you did pretty damn well. So I'll give you your flowers here. I'll give you your flowers here. I'll just say this. Last week I went 5-0. You didn't know it, but I picked 5 games. I went 5-0. So technically, percentage-wise, I think I'm back in front of you.
Nah, no, sir. No, sir. Doesn't count.
All right. So let's start with the recent news from Penn State. James Franklin gets canned, and it's honestly in a lot of weird ways, like it was surprising, but it wasn't. You just kind of felt like it was getting to a point where they were almost pressured to make that move because you lose 2 straight games to teams you have no business losing to in UCLA, Northwestern. I think they were the first team in like maybe 50 years or so to lose 2 straight games as 20-point favorites. I mean, Gene, this was a team that a couple of weeks ago, they're this close to knocking off Oregon at home, and if they do that, they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country. And this was a team that, again, a year ago was this close to playing for a national championship. And yet here we are just 15 days after they lose to Oregon, James Franklin's out. And look, I get it. It's a tough job. You know, in Happy Valley, you've got to be 11, 12 wins pretty much yearly to be keeping people happy in Happy Valley. But when you look at what he's done there, taking over for Bill O'Brien, who really kind of came in to help stabilize the program after the whole drama stuff that happened up there, he brought Penn State back to relevancy. And as we talked about, got him the Big Ten championships, got him to the college football playoff, got him that close to the national championship, yet it wasn't good enough. It feels like we're to this point in college athletics now where leashes are extremely thin and you don't really have an opportunity to have a so-called down year at certain places, Penn State being one of them. Just your initial thoughts on that whole firing, what this means for the entire landscape of college football, and then we'll get into Rich after that.
Well, I think first off, James Franklin is an excellent coach. Let me be clear about that. Now, unfortunately, because of the landscape of where college football is right now, This could be, let's see how, now this is going to sound crazy, right? And hyperbolic because this is Penn State that we're talking about, but let's just see how desirable the Penn State job is. Okay? Because when you are under this much pressure and you're already someplace else, I'm thinking of a few different coaches. First off, to be forthright, let's talk about Terry M. Smith, the interim head coach. Now, one of the best recruiters in the country, year in and year out, we know this. One of the best technical coaches in the country, year in and year out, we know this. All you got to do is look on the rosters in the NFL and see how many DBs he's put in the NFL over the last several years. Okay,
Yeah.
so he is a good recruiter. He's a developer of talent. He's well respected. Now, I'm hoping that he gets a legitimate look at this thing. My crystal ball tells me I'm
Probably
hoping he
not.
does. Probably not. But I hope he does, because here's someone that, if we're talking about the word deserving of it, he would be deserving of it just based on what he helped to build at Penn State. Now, the landscape in which we see these coaches, like you said, is such a short leash. If they win 10 games, you get into the college playoffs and you win, let's say Penn State won what? 2 last year, correct? 2 playoff games,
I think so,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. The next year, this guy is out. So what does that tell you? It tells you one or two things. For me, it tells me that they wanted him gone probably last year. That's what that would tell me. That's a quick indicator, because there's no way that if I won 2 playoff games last year and came a whisker into winning a national championship, and then the next year I'm having perceivably a down year and I'm gone, what would that tell me if I'm an agent? I was a pretty good sports agent some years back. What would that tell me about representing my client going into that situation?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
looking at that, yeah, through some really, really sketchy lenses. Like, wait a second now, either your expectations is way too far left, or we've gotten to a point where these coaches are expected to win 11 games a year. And if you don't, I don't care what your buyout is, I don't care what your salary is, you're going to be gone. I'm not sure if that's the way you want to look at this thing, because building programs take time. Now, let me say this real quick, right? By saying that, then you look at Kirk Cinetti
exactly.
and you say, here's a guy with perceivably no 5 stars on your roster, very few 4 stars on your roster, a slew of 3 and 2 stars on your roster. But in 2 years, you got Indiana floating. But you want to know why? I've said this before. You got a head coach and a staff that knows how to develop talent. You got a head coach and a staff that they're bringing in the right kids to fit their system. They're not going out and trying to get every 5-star out there. They're going out and they're getting football players that actually fit their system. I think that's just as important as the kind of money these guys are making. That's the landscape of college sports. So hats off to Kirk Cinetti and his staff down there, because they are doing a hell of a job.
They certainly are. And I think the crazy thing about this whole James Franklin thing is he won almost 70% of his games. He won coming into this year, he won
Absolutely.
34 games in 3 years. And I understand expectations are probably a little bit different in Happy Valley than they are in Morgantown or wherever they may be. But when you look at college football as a whole, there's not that many coaches that are winning that often, that consistently. And I'm not here to say that you can have 2 losses like that and survive, but I mean, there is such a thing as a down season. That can happen. If you go back and look at Don Nehlen's time at West Virginia, again, I know it's different expectations and whatnot. There was a couple of times throughout his tenure where it just didn't work. It had a down year, and then he would bounce back, build back up, and here we go. I know it's a different era as well, but still, I feel like we're getting so far away from that that we're not even allowing coaches to have this much wiggle room. Like if it's one bad year, you're already talking hot seat, and it's not fair to the coaches because they can't build. That noise gets into that building, and I feel like that noise may have crept into Happy Valley because after the UCLA loss, those players they heard all
Right.
that noise after that UCLA loss. And then, oh, here comes Northwestern. The moment that game gets tight, or well, it was pretty much tight the whole way, it gets down to the end of the fourth quarter, they're starting to think about that in their head. Like I think that stuff is very real. And who knows? I don't want to start speculating, but I wonder how much of Drew Aller being out for the rest of the season has to do with this because I'm wondering too if their administration's thinking, okay, Drew Aller's out for the rest of the year. We're 3-3 with our starting quarterback out. This is probably going to get really ugly. Might as well just do it now. I don't know, but I understand the fact that he didn't win the big games. That's a big part of it. But good luck trying to hire somebody that's going to continue to build on what James Franklin did and do better. Because, some of the candidates out there, I'm not all that thrilled with, to be honest with you, but we'll see where they land. Now, let's talk about Rich
Real quick,
Rodriguez. Yeah,
real quick, Schuyler, to your point, I don't know because if you look at quote unquote candidates that the names that are floating around that I'm hearing, none of them except for one has a 70% winning percentage,
exactly.
except for one.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
And Matt Rule, who I love and I have a great, respect for, and I worked with him for a couple of years in Carolina, and he was great. Even he doesn't check all the boxes for me, and I know the history that he has there. But when you look at his
Of
record
course.
against ranked opponents, I mean, it's worse than James Franklin by a mile. So I mean, I just don't know. I don't know. But with Rich Rod, let's talk about this because I think this is what West Virginia fans really want to know. And I'm not trying to get into this talk of saying Rich Rod's already on the hot seat or that he would be by next year. I'm not saying that. But with the short leashes that coaches have in this era, I think it's worth talking about because this season, unless some miraculous thing happens and Khalil Wilkins or Scotty Fox becomes the guy, which is possible,
Mhm.
but if we just
Mhm.
project, this season's probably not going anywhere. 2026, let's hypothetically say this. 2026, they go 5-7. What is the temperature on Rich Rod's seat going into 2027, so-called year three?
Well, I think from a fan perspective, it'll be hot. But I think from the overall support from the people who have helped to get him back to Morgantown, I don't think it's going to matter. I think Rich
It won't
Rod's
waver.
leash, me personally, I don't think it would. I think his leash is from Morgantown to New York City.
It might be.
I
It,
just, I mean, that's just my humble opinion. I don't know, but I'm thinking, first off, when you talk about fans in any sport, to your point, if he don't win 11 games next year, he can win 10 games and you still will have people upset because you still
yep.
have that 50-50 situation where, some of them wanted them back, some of them didn't, whatever that is. But my point is to everyone who helped to bring him back and who really wanted him back. And they put a whole bunch of financial pieces in place to get him back. I don't think that leash is short because the overarching thought would have probably been, we know it's going to take some years to get back to where we need to be because you know why? The structure wasn't there. It's not built the way we need to be built. So we got to tear all that down and then rebuild. Rebuild don't take it takes some time.
And you can't just do it in the transfer
I'm going
portal,
back
as we've seen.
right. It takes some. So here's the thing: you're gonna get a whole bunch of hit and misses, right? So I think it'll be disingenuous and unfair to say, well, Rich will be on the hot seat after next season because guess what? 2 full recruiting classes for me, 2 full recruiting classes, 2 full high school recruiting classes, 2 full now getting into the transfer portal where you can get them in your system and really fully develop them. Let me see what that looks like in year 3. And I know
Sure.
people are like, year 3, wait, what? but let me see what that looks like in year three.
Yeah, you can't compare West Virginia to certain places around the country because one, the resources aren't the same. And as I talked about earlier this week, you can't take the Texas Tech approach because you don't have that oil money just sitting around somewhere, right? Now maybe there's some coal money that we haven't, popped across yet, but I don't know. We haven't heard from that quite yet. So you can't take the Texas Tech approach. You just can't take the approach of just reloading in the transfer portal every year because that's not sustainable. You can maybe go in and or go all in and push your chips to the center of the table in one year, but guess what? If all those kids are seniors or 70% of those kids are seniors, you're right back to square one the very next year. So are you going to have the resources to replenish the roster or do you go through the high school ranks? The high school ranks is the way to go. I don't want to go too deep into that because I talked about it earlier this week, but I'll say I don't think he'll be on the hot seat if that plays out where this year's a wash and next year's 5-7. But I think you need to start to see results in year three if it's not already happened to that point. If you get to year three and it's again another 5-7 or another or a 6-6, that's when I think the temperature's starting to gonna get a little warm. But you have to be very careful because you have to be smart with every dollar that you spend, whether that's by bringing in rosters or players for the roster or coaches or paying them to leave. Like buyouts are not cheap. And when you have to field a roster with payments to players, like it's not easy. So I'll say that, but I think too, as I said before we hopped on here, there's going to be a point in time where these conferences are going to blow up again. And there's going to be probably two super leagues, or it's going to be something like that. We have no idea what it's going to look like. But West Virginia has to do whatever it can to position itself to be included in that mix. And you've got to be winning in football. You got to be competitive in football. So I'll just throw that out there. But I don't think Rich Rod's going to be on the hot seat after 2 years. I just think you need to start to see results by year three.
No, I could agree with that. I also think two things for sure will happen. Once you start to build a culture, and again, players come with coaches.
More than
Players
ever now.
come with right. So what does that mean? If you have the right staff of coaches that have the relationships and they've already built those bridges, and these players know they're going to be developed, they're going to more than likely come to your school, and money has nothing to do with it. I know it because I've heard it, because I've helped a few players over the last 2 years, and they're at their chosen universities doing quite well, and that was all based on the coach that they wanted to play for. They didn't
Yeah.
get the biggest bag that they wanted, but it's the coach that they wanted to play for, and it's the coach they want to be developed by.
Right.
As Deion Sanders says, don't be so short-sighted on the bag you're going to get through the NIL situation versus the bag that you're going to get at the next level if you're developed properly and you're playing and you're making plays and you're doing what you're supposed to do. I'm more on that line than I am give me the kid that wants all this money, and I'm not sure if that's the right kid to fit my program. So that's what I mean by players come with good coaches.
Yeah, and that's a good segue because in our next segment here, West Virginia's biggest obstacle to me it is that with the NIL, and I'm with you there because if you have a guy that is so short sighted and just cares about the NIL money, my guy, like that,
Yeah.
that's going to run out. Like it's only got a certain time length before that money's not going to be coming into your bank account anymore. The thing that's going to get you the money that you really want is being developed in college. That's what's going to get you the big time money that's going to be more sustainable. It's going to last a lot longer than these couple of years in college. But to me, the biggest obstacle, I think it's really just finding the resources outside of the rev share because Rich Rod said it
Mm-hmm.
in his press conference earlier this week that he feels like $10 million over the cap. So you have that 20-ish $1 million that is in the rev share from the school and whatnot, but the NIL side of it, if he can get
Mm-hmm.
$10 million, which he admitted is a pretty big number, especially for West Virginia, that would be
Hmm.
probably enough to be competitive nationally. And obviously, Texas Tech, they're probably 2 or 3 times that, but still, you just want to be in a good spot. So $10 million per season. Can West Virginia, like fans and businesses and people that really support the program, can they foot that 10 million? That's the biggest question I have. If they can get across that hurdle, I think you will see the results because you're going to have that consistent flow of money. You're going to have the type of commit or recruits that you want to have in the building. I don't know, but that's a big obstacle for me. What's the biggest obstacle for you for West Virginia to get back nationally relevant?
I'm listen. I'm not going to drop a name, but I know of a player right now because I'm right on the same. I'm in the same boat that you're in because I do believe that that is a huge obstacle. But I'm not going to drop a name. I'm just going to say this: he is one of the top juniors in the country right now, and he is legit. Everybody and their mama is recruiting this young man, right? Straight A student. He is legit, right? And I'm going to tell you this: speaking to his parents and speaking to close people around his circle, he's not going for where all the money is. He's
Hmm.
looking for a niche fit. Like I said, he's a straight A student and he wants to be coached. And I love his approach because I'm gonna say it again. Rich might be right. Maybe that number is $10 million above the cap, right? My point is, if I don't care if you got 20 million above the cap, if you don't have the type of a staff that's going to develop these players, they're not coming.
Yeah.
And if they do come, they may come for a year, get whatever they're going to get, and bounce on to the next, right? That, to me, the biggest obstacle, it's a combination of things. It's the money, the NIL money, and it's really getting the type of player that wants to be developed and that's going to fit into your system and understand that it's just as important to come to the right university because you want to be a student. And I'm old school. I'm old school. So I'm always going to look at that perspective where give me the student athlete that wants to come to Morgantown, that understands the tradition of West Virginia football, that understands what it means to be a Mountaineer. Give me that kid because I know that kid is not coming with a huge dollar sign. They're going to make money, obviously, because that's the landscape of where we are in college sports. But give me that. I want those kids,
Yeah.
and I could develop those kids with my staff, with this culture, and we're going to win some football. That's the biggest hurdle. Give me those kids. I don't. If you come in there talking about, hey, coach, hey, coach, look, how much scratch you gonna give me, coach? For me,
See ya.
you're recruiting. That's a short visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a short.
There's the door.
Easy, relax. No, you don't fit what I. There you go. So I think that for me, that's my biggest hurdle. It's in my biggest obstacle that West Virginia faces. It's getting the right kids on campus. It's getting the right kids to understand what West Virginia stands for. And to your point, it is the money because you're right. We're in a league where all these Texas freaking schools got all these deep pocket donors. You understand?
Buying
And
their
it's
rosters.
hard to compete with that. When you listen, you coming with $1, they coming with $20 to your $1. It's like, come on, dog, really?
Yeah, it's a
I get
tough
it.
it's a tough world to be in, and as I've stated many times now, people are probably tired of hearing this Moneyball quote, but like it's the facts. Like if you try to play like the Yankees, like in this room, just of like as if I'm Rich Rodriguez and I've got my coaching staff around me, we're trying to call up all these agents and outbid everybody. If you try to play like the Yankees or Texas Tech in this instance, you're going to lose to Texas Tech or the Yankees out there on the field. You can't do it. You've got to do the sustainable approach, the thing that's going to get you the best outcome without having to stretch your dollars, right? You've got to be smart with your dollars. You're not going to have that just constantly replenished like you will at Texas Tech or some other schools. So, yeah, interesting topic there. But let's go ahead and get to our trivia question. We'll get to a quick break and get into our preview for this week's game. So, this week's question, Rich Rodriguez is 21-8 all-time when coming off a bye. And I've got an article that's got every single result of Rich Rodriguez's results after bye at every single stop. I encourage you to check it out on our website. I'll put the link in the description here below on YouTube. So he is 21-8 all-time off a bye. Which ranked Big East team did he beat in consecutive years coming out of a bye in his first stint in Morgantown? Was it A, Miami, B, Louisville, or C, Virginia Tech? Give a quick minute or so to think on that. When we return on the other side, we'll have our answer and get into this week's preview with West Virginia and UCF.
Let's go, Mountaineer Nation. The final whistle might blow, but the real breakdown is just getting started. Join us right after every WVU game for the Mountaineer Postgame Show. Instant analysis, real talk, and zero fluff. What went right, what went wrong, and what's next. We've got it all for you. Hit subscribe, turn on the notifications, and be part of the conversation. Win, lose, or draw, we're breaking it all down for you, Mountaineer style.
Want the most accurate updates on the West Virginia Mountaineers? Visit West Virginia on SI, the most trusted source on everything WVU. Several stories published every morning, every day before your feet hit the ground. From football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, transfer portal news, and more, we have it all for you. Every angle, every update, every morning. Welcome back. It is the Walk Thru GameDay Show. Schuyler, Callihan, Eugene, Napoleon. Before the break, we asked our trivia question. It was Rich Rodriguez is 21-8 all-time when coming off a bye. Which ranked Big East team did he beat in consecutive years coming out of a bye in his first stint in West Virginia? Was it Miami, Louisville, or Virginia Tech? Gene, what say you?
It's interesting because I do know this answer.
And
this was a school that I think I had 18 carries. I think I had a $132,
what?
2 touchdowns.
Okay.
So that will be B, Louisville.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
Stumped you this week, boy. It is not Louisville. It is actually Virginia Tech is the answer. So, yes.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, you were kind of close because I didn't even realize until this. I was almost wondering if I had 2 correct answers there, but no. So Louisville in 2006, they lost to Louisville, who's ranked 5th, 34-44. And then they beat them in 07, 38-31. But Virginia Tech, the Mountaineers beat number 13, Va-Tech, 21-18 in 02. And then they beat number 3, Virginia Tech, in 03, 28-7. So there it is, Virginia Tech. I stopped it. I stopped the streak, baby. I finally got you. I had a couple of weeks to prepare, so maybe that's what it was. But anyways, let's go and get into your Napoleon's Dynamite player to watch for the week. Who are we keeping our eyes on this week for the Mountaineers, Eugene?
Man, listen, we have to have a big game from this particular crew, the receiving crew. But I like Rodney Gallagher. I think this young man has potential, big play potential. And I'm just thinking that he has to have a big day. We got to help the quarterback. There's something about Gallagher's ability to be slippery with the ball in his hands, and I really think we need to get him the ball a little bit more. So for some reason, it's clicking in my head that he's going to have a really good game, and I think he's going to have a few big plays, and that's going to be needed.
Yeah,
we're going to need him to have a breakout game. So yeah, that's my Napoleon's Dynamite player to watch. Yeah, Rodney Gallagher.
Yeah, he is somebody that's been needing to get going. Feel like it's well past time for him to start producing some better numbers, obviously, offensively. So we'll see what he does. The rest of our players to watch for West Virginia. I'm going to go with Jamori Robinson. It's been a few games now since he's been in the mix. Still hasn't been very highly productive. He's gotten after the passer a couple of times, but it really hasn't been able to get home. So maybe this is the first time he gets to the quarterback, has a breakout game. They really need him to do so. For UCF, I'm going to go with running back Miles Montgomery. He's a jittery back. He just needs a small little crease to be able to hit the home run ball. Had some very explosive runs against Kansas a couple of weeks ago. And then on the defensive side, I'm going to go with Najee Kelly, UCF's probably their best defender, very active. He had 3 forced fumbles a year ago, 5.5 sacks. He's got 1 forced fumble and I think 1 or 2 sacks this year. That defensive front, we're going to talk about it here in a bit, but it's a pretty impressive front considering they don't have the biggest guys in the world, but it's a pretty interesting unit to watch. So we'll get into that here in just a second. But let's start with this UCF offense versus West Virginia's defense. And before I start getting into the UCF defense, what are some of the things that you're hoping to see from this West Virginia D after having the last week or so off to kind of fix some things?
Honestly, I really want them to punch them in the mouth up front. I really want we have to, not even want, we really have to control the line of scrimmage and really almost come out right from the gate and steamroll them up front to really set the tone. That's what I want to see. Physical, physical, physical. I think the last 2 or 3 games we've talked about missing tackles or whatever the case may be. This game, if you're going to get back on track defensively, it has to be a physical game, but it has to be, more importantly, a game where there are no missed assignments. And I know this sounds crazy, but no, they can't be the kind of missed assignments that we've had over the last 3 weeks. It just can't happen, especially coming out of a bye week.
Right.
So that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, no, you can't have it. That would just make absolutely possibly no sense.
Yeah, I think the one thing that they need to do outside of the tackling is just better. I don't know if it's better angles or maybe better fits in the run game, because I think some of the issues have been just guys over pursuing or just taking the wrong angle on runs to the perimeter. For some reason, there's just too many. It's almost like they're getting clogged up on the perimeter and they're not having, they're not understanding where their teammates are at. So that's a big part of it as well. But for UCF's offense, there's a lot to go through here. First and foremost, who the hell are they going to start at quarterback? I don't know. They've started 3 different quarterbacks. It's been Taven Jackson. It's been Cam Francher. It's been Ja'Curry Brown. Actually, I don't know if Brown started a game, but he has played. It seems like to me, if he is fully healthy this week, that they'll probably go back to Taven Jackson as the Indiana transfer. He's probably their more refined passer, but I really like what Cam Francher does. He last week against Cincinnati, to be honest with you, I felt like I was watching Khalil Wilkins against BYU. That's really what it felt like, because he ran the ball 20 times against Cincinnati. And they didn't have a whole lot going in the pass game, but he did some nice things there, throwing the ball a little bit down the field. When he came in relief against Kansas late in the game, when Jackson got hurt, he also threw some decent balls there. But it was a lot of dink and dunk there, and also against Cincinnati, there was just not a vertical passing game. With Jackson in the game, they're going to take more shots down the field, although they haven't really connected on him. Speaking of which, on passing attempts of 10 yards or more, he is 16 of 41 is Taven Jackson. 16 of 41. Now, if we're talking about throws 10 yards or less, then we're at 64 and I believe, let's quick math here, 64 and 80. 64 out of 80. So clearly their offense is predicated on getting the ball out quick, but they feel a little bit more comfortable with Taven Jackson taking shots versus Cam Francher. Jackson's more of a stationary target back there, doesn't have really the mobility that Francher has. Francher will do some things in the run game that can hurt you, that can really complement you, or that can complement Miles Montgomery and Jaden Nixon in the backfield. So I wouldn't be shocked if they go with Francher. I think he probably gives them a little bit more, but Jackson's probably the guy they rely on a little bit in the passing game. So going to that running back duo, Miles Montgomery, he's a veteran. He actually played at Cincinnati for a couple of years and then made the transfer to UCF last year, 434 yards. But Jaden Nixon, he hasn't had a whole lot of a workload so far. He's got 25 carries, but he's averaging, Gene, listen for this, 11.5 yards per carry on those 25 carries. So he has been an issue. So either one of those are going to be a problem for West Virginia. And then the last thing that I have here, on their offense is their offensive line has had some troubles handling some stunts and some of those twist actions with 4-man fronts, 3-man fronts. They've been able to pick those up pretty good, but it's whenever they go to 4 downs or 4 down looks, they get a little bit confused and kind of give up some things there. So UCF offensively, what are you kind of looking at as maybe one of the one or two things you need to key in on if you're West Virginia's defense?
The running game. The running game, because those backs are really shifty. They're really quick. And the thing that I noticed, there's not too much wasted movement. So
Yeah.
one cut and go type guys. So that could be a problem, because if we're having problems tackling
Yeah.
and we're having problems spacing, okay, and we're having problems, angling, backs like that, you don't that can be problematic. So that would be one thing. And to be honest with you, UCF, they're kind of sneaky with what they do, and it's not I don't want to say they can have explosive plays, and for me that becomes problematic, because at the least you don't even expect it, and next thing you know, you're giving up an explosive play. And with a school like you, with a talent base that UCF has, they use their talent very well. It's
Right.
not like they have a whole bunch of marquee players, but they know how to get everything they need out of their players. They remind me of, not as big as a Utah or BYU, but that staff gets every ounce of talent out of what they have. And that's scary, because they play very well in the trenches and their backs know exactly what they need. Trap game. This, to me,
Could be.
is a trap game.
Can a 2-4 team have a
Because
trap game? I mean,
what I'm saying is, well, yes, but when you're trying to get back on track, yeah.
yeah.
You can't come off of a bye week and then go to UCF and lose. So that's what I mean. Like, that's kind of scary. And this is the right type of team that can do it to you if you don't pay attention to details.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head there because, I mean, this is one of the better rushing teams out there in the country. But ironically, if they run the ball really well, statistically, it doesn't usually work out well for them. I've got an interesting stat here. I broke down their wins and their losses. And in the games that they rushed for 190 yards or more, they're 0-3.
Mm-hmm.
And this is against just FBS opponents. We're not talking about North Carolina A&T. They're 0-3 when they
Right.
rush for 190 or more. In the games they don't, they're 2-0. So what it
That's
tells me
interesting.
is in those games, they have enough of a passing attack to complement it. They don't have to really lean on it or rely on it. And some of that can also go to, like, if you look at that Cincinnati game, I'm telling you, like, Cam Francher, every time he dropped back, it was like Khalil Wilkins against BYU, where if it wasn't there within a second or second and a half, he was already thinking about taking off and trying to get some yardage. So that could be a little skewed,
Right.
but you still had two other occurrences where that happened. You ran for 190 and you still lost the game. So I think, to me, it's a bounce back performance from Michael Coates Jr. Your Naps pick of the week
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. He had a bad
Yeah.
game. His worst game as a Mountaineer, gave up several explosive plays, had defensive pass interference, which is, in my opinion, looking back on it, probably a little questionable. But he needs to bounce back. Jason Chambers needs to have a strong game. Fred Perry needs to continue to be the impact player that he is. If that secondary can really swell up and kind
Mm-hmm.
of make UCF run the ball, then I
Yes.
think you've got a really good chance. If they run for 200, great, let them. But if they struggle to get things going in the passing game, that's where you kind of know you're gonna potentially have a good day. As I mentioned, Taven Jackson, 16 of 41 when throwing beyond the sticks. We're not
Yeah.
talking 20 yards. I mean, 20 yards, he's 7 of 20. But if you combine the two, just beyond the sticks, he's 16 of 41. So that's a tough place to be in if you're UCF.
No, listen, I agree with you. And hopefully In that case, yeah, run for 200 yards, throw for 10 yards, and West Virginia wins the football game.
Exactly.
I'll take it.
So let's flip it over here to West Virginia's offense, UCF's defense. I'll let you start here again, too. With the quarterback position, we don't know what's going to happen. Rich is going to keep that thing close to the vest all the way up till game day, but my belief is that it will be Khalil Wilkins again. That's kind of the sense, and I don't think I'm breaking any news here. I think everyone's kind of on the same page thinking that'll be the case. Jalen Henderson's doubtful again for this week, so it'll be Scotty Fox, Khalil Wilkins taking the majority of the reps. If it is indeed Khalil, what are you looking for him to build on after that performance at BYU? Because as we talked about in the post game, he didn't look bright eyed. He didn't look overwhelmed. He didn't look nervous. There were some plays that he'd probably like to have back, both in the
Right.
pass and the run game. But that was at least an encouraging sign that he went into that environment on a short week for his first ever start and didn't bat an eye. So, what are you looking for from him in that next step?
Well, I think, listen, we have to help him out. Play calling has to help him out a little bit. I like you said, he did some good things. He did some things that obviously you have to clean it up a little bit. But if I'm gonna open up with him, I'm gonna say give him some short passes, give him some easy passes, give him a few screens to kind of get him going. And he seems to be the type of kid that he's comfortable when he's running as well. Give him some quarterback design runs, like really get him feeling the pulse of the game early. And I think if you get him laddered up early, this thing he can have a breakout game. He really can, because he can really throw that ball, man. He has a nice touch on the ball. I mean, did have some passes that he probably wanted back, but my point is he can make the throws. So that's what I would do with him. I would get him started early. I really would.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to get him in rhythm. I think the easiest thing for a young quarterback, especially to get him, feeling good early, is just those easy completions. It doesn't have to be, stressing the defense vertically. Just get him a couple of easy little pitch and catches, get him going, and get his feet wet. Let him settle in, let him breathe,
Yep.
relax, and then you can start gradually working your way down the field in those downfield throws. But those downfield throws, they're going to have some opportunities there, but this pass defense for UCF has been pretty strong throughout the entire season. Jaden Bellamy is a cornerback that I really like. He's played well this year, as well as Jaden Williams at times at safety. But those two corners, Antoine Jackson, Jaden Bellamy, they've played extremely well. They're the 14th ranked pass defense in the country. They only allow 157 yards per game through the air. Uh, the one thing that really popped out to me early on when I started watching this tape is this defensive front. I talked about it at the beginning. Malachi Lawrence, Big John Walker, who I think is going to be a stud. I don't know the exact height weight comparison. I don't think they're even really that close. But when I see John Walker, I see a lot of Dante Corleone, who is at Cincinnati and has been a mauler for a couple of years. The more he continues to grow into his body, into his frame, I think he's going to be a hell of a player. He's going to be an NFL draft pick for sure. So yeah, Big John Walker. Then you have R.J. Jackson, Jalen Kelly, who we already talked about. They have dudes in that front, and they can be really, really strong against the run.
Mhm.
And that's to me one of the problematic things in this game, because if West Virginia can't get Dior Hubbard going, we don't know about Ty Edwards' status. He's in Alabama seeing a specialist. We don't know what that situation is going to look like. For my guess, it's probably going to be Dior Hubbard, Clay Ash, Sincere Bowers, and whoever's at quarterback. But if they can't get that run game going against this front, it's going to be a really, really tough day in Orlando. Um, Especially because they are really good in third down. 22nd defense in the country on third down conversions. So um, more of what you're expecting here on these early downs. What do you want to see in those first and second downs to get in third manageable?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think you got to be above ahead of the change on first downs, because that's an athletic front. Let's be clear. UCF poses an athletic front, and they're pretty good with what they do, getting to the football. They tackle well. So at the end of the day, if we can get second and 6, second and 5. That takes a lot of pressure off of the quarterback. It takes a lot of pressure off of Rich and what he wants to do, getting in rhythm in terms of play calling. That is the key. I don't want to be second and 8.
For the redshirt freshman.
I don't want to. I don't want to be that. You know what I mean? 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. Man, let's be third if we can. Let's be manageable with 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Even a 3rd and 3 is cool, right? And that's consistently throughout the game. So I think that the game plan has to be: let's make sure that we are pretty much within or ahead of the sticks on our first 1 to 2 plays, so we can take some pressure off the quarterback, take some pressure off the running game, and do some things where we are in rhythm. Not where the defense, because we didn't do something right and the defense is now dictating to us what we're going to do. Because if you're 3rd and 8, 9 times out of 10, you're throwing the football.
Yeah.
You're throwing the football. And 3rd and 9,
you become predictable.
Yeah, I don't want that. So, and I don't think with this kind of defensive front, we could afford to do that. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm looking for. We have to be plus in the first and second down category, in my opinion, if they're going to win this football game.
The encouraging thing is 2 weeks ago against BYU, they had one of the best third down defenses in the country. I don't know, I may have been 7th in the nation. And all Khalil Wilkins did go out there was convert 7 of the 15. Like, that's pretty damn good, Gene. Like, 7 of 15 third downs against one of the best third down defenses in the country in your first ever start at their place on a short week. We've already said this a billion times, but like, that in and of itself is impressive. And just the added dimension that he brings with his legs gives you a fighting chance on a broken play. How many times did we spend the first 3 or 4 weeks of this season saying, if a play is broken down, if there's coverage that's sticky in the back end and a pass play, you have nothing the play's dead. It's over with, right? Now with Khalil Wilkins, you've got a chance. And on so many of those third downs where he took off and ran, I wouldn't say so many, but there's a handful of them where there just wasn't anything there. But because of his athleticism and his speed, he was able to make something happen and get the first down. So that's an encouraging sign. The one thing that's probably not is the fast starts that just haven't been there against this UCF defense. Going into that Cincinnati game, they had not given up a single point in the first quarter all year. They gave up a touchdown to Cincinnati, but 7 points in the first quarter all season doesn't bode well for an offense that's also been struggling to score in the first quarter of games this year. More about UCF's defense. They play a ton of man coverage, as I mentioned earlier, with Bellamy and Jackson. They've been good enough to be able to do that with that defensive front, being able to get some push up there, to at least affect the passer that allows them to play more man coverage. The one thing about them, though, even though they get some push, they really don't give a ton of pressure in the passing game. They're 127th nationally in pressuring the quarterback. So maybe that's a good thing for Khalil Wilkins this week. Maybe a good thing for that offensive line that's really struggled. But we'll see. And then, to go off your point with the quick passes and the stuff on the outside, it might be a good fit too, because UCF against Cincinnati and against Kansas, so those are the only 2 games I watched. But in those 2 games, they struggled at times fighting off blocks on the perimeter, where it might not be those big 30-yard plays that pop in the screen game, but it was just those little tiny plays that you wouldn't notice that would be a big impact, but ended up being something, where it was maybe a second down and 8, they'd have an RPO attached or they'd have a little screen, and all of a sudden they couldn't fight off a block, and it's 3rd and 3. Might have only been a 5-yard game, but it gave them in that manageable situation on 3rd down. So those happened quite a bit in those 2 games. I think that could be somewhere where West Virginia could take advantage. And lastly, I thought it was very interesting that 7 of the top 8 missed tackle leaders, if you want to call them, were in the 2nd and 3rd levels for UCF. What's that tell you? Big plays are there for the taking.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to tell you one other thing. I like the fact that they play a lot of man, because for
Cam Vaughn.
Any one of our okay. I love the fact they play a lot of man. That's good. That's good. It's also good when you have like we do, you have an athletic running quarterback, because the first thing you understand is man means when the back is turned, I'm out the back door. That's what that means. Because if my receivers are taking you downfield and you're in man and I can get past the line of scrimmage, there's some big yardage to be had there. That's one. And then, like you said, with our receivers playing a lot of man, I don't know. I think Cam Vaughn, again, I told you this, is one of the best receivers in the country, in my humble opinion. And he may be due for a breakout game. So, yeah, let's challenge. Let's play mano y mano. I'll take Cam against any one of their corners any day of the week, and let's see consistently between first and the third quarter. As a matter of fact, from the first to the fourth quarter, the entire game, if you play man more than 50% of the time, I think Cam is going to have a big day. I don't think you have a corner on that roster that can stay with him, man for man. That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and then they're going to have to, as every team's going to do, they're going to put that safety over top. They're going to shade him his way.
I'm going to be out there with my towel.
But I mean, they're going to put that safety over his way. So you've got to find a way to maybe do some of that stuff underneath, or maybe it's some switches and releases. I don't know. You can get creative with how you get him open, but it's obviously probably a little bit more easier to do in man coverage. So we'll see how they attack that, and it'll be interesting. I think Khalil Wilkins, this is a big, big game for him. I mean, I'm not going to say this is the do or die game for him, but this is an opportunity for him to go out and put his foot in the ground and say, hey, coach, I'm your guy. Let's go. So this is a great opportunity for him. It's a great opportunity for Dior Hubbard and some other guys as well. So anyways, let's go ahead and now move into our weekly pick'ems. And Gene, yeah, you did go a couple of weeks, I think 4-1 or some crazy stuff like that. So
yeah. Listen, 4-1 4-1 to be exact. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Week 8. Here we go. Week 8 pick'ems. Number 10, LSU at number 17, Vanderbilt, kicking off at 12 o'clock noon on ABC. Do Diego Pavia and the Commodores bounce back after their loss to Alabama? And does LSU go into this game on the road, which is going to be a pretty intense environment, which is kind of odd to say because Vanderbilt hasn't been a very tough place to play in over the years. Man, I'm going to go with LSU. I think they just have more talent. I think even though with this one being on the road, Vandy playing pissed off, I get it, but I think Vanderbilt's going to fall back down to earth here.
I agree with you. And now see that you're starting off smart.
Well, I'll wander off here soon. Don't you worry.
Give me LSU. I agree with you. LSU.
Top 10 matchup sticking in the SEC. We've got number 5 Ole Miss at number 9 Georgia, 3:30 ABC. Gene, what's that? What's the sound? That's some dogs barking, baby. I got the dogs rolling this one. They got to pull off the upset. I don't know what the spread is. They may be favored in this game. I don't know. But if we're looking at the rankings, I'm going with the upset here. So I'm going with the dogs barking, Georgia getting the win. Ole Miss, I feel like they've got a good team overall, but they've got so much questions at quarterback. Trinidad Chambliss, is it Austin Simmons? It seems like it's always back and forth every week. They have no idea who the hell it's going to be. You can't have that situation going in against this team in between the hedges. So I'm going to go with Georgia.
Now, see, it's funny. Here you go again. Now, that's good now because you already know. Give me them, give me them dogs. I'm with you. So far, you're good. So far, you're on track. You got LSU. You got Georgia. So far, you're on track. Let's see if you stay on track.
Let's see. So let's go to number 20, USC. Going to number 13, Notre Dame. 7:30 on Peacock. I was really back and forth on this, to be honest with you, and I still don't feel good about this pick. But it seems like there's always one game a year where you feel like Notre Dame, I don't know if this is the game because USC is a really good team, but it feels like they should win this game. But there's always one game that they probably stumped their toe against, and it's not going to be this one. I'm going to go with the Fighting Irish. I'm going to go with Marcus Freeman, C.J. Carr, Jeremiah Love. They find a way to get it done. It's an old rivalry game. I think Jaden Maeva is a really good quarterback. He's going to make this a really tight game. But I'm going to go with that Notre Dame defense getting a huge stop or two late in this one to seal the deal. I'm going with Notre Dame.
Boy, I'm impressed. I'm impressed because I'm doing the same. I'm going with Notre Dame at home. It's going to be a good game, but I'm going with Notre Dame to pull it out. So far, you're scaring me because so far we're in the same car. Not even we're in the same car so far. Okay, let's see what you got.
The bye week may have done me some good or may have done you some bad. Now you're on my side of the bad thinking, so maybe we'll have to find out. But let's go to the Holy War here. Number 23, Utah. Number 15, BYU, 8 o'clock on Fox. It's the big one in the Big 12 this week. Major implications here, of course, not only for the title, but you're also talking the college football playoff and so on and so forth. Man, I mean, it's hard to go and pick the road team in this game. And I mean, to be honest, the environment isn't so much a home field advantage in this game because it's an in-state game. Both fan bases can travel very easily, but still there's a slight edge always to the home team in this one. But a true freshman quarterback going against this Morgan Scalley defense, his Kyle Whittingham defense, I can't get there with BYU. I have a lot of respect for Bear Bachmeier. I love Kalani Sitake. He's one of the greatest coaches out there, one of the most greatest human beings out there in this game. But I think Devin Dampierre is going to be able to put up enough points that Bear Bachmeier can't continue to battle with all night. So I'm going to go with the Utes here on the road.
Okay, I'm out the car. That's it. I'm out. I'm good. I'm walking. BYU, man. BYU all the way. That defense is something different. They hit and yeah. They bring the whole lumberyard. That defense is something different. So I'm going with BYU, and I'll be walking the rest of the way. Thank you, though.
So I might gain a game on you, maybe or two. We'll see how our picks here for this last game. So it is the game that you're all here for. West Virginia, UCF kicking off at 1 p.m. on TNT or HBO Max. West Virginia looking to come off that bye week with some new good feelings, some new vibes, try to get off this second half of the season with a W in Orlando.
Well, I thought the bye week came at a good time. I would have liked to probably had it a couple weeks earlier, but we got a chance to work on some fundamentals, try to get some guys healthier. Didn't quite get as many back as I wanted to from that regard, but we did get a chance to scrimmage with the young guys one day a little bit and kind of restart, I guess, our second half of the season. I challenged the staff and the players, but everybody on staff, are we doing everything we can to have success? And I think we are. I mean, as best as we can, and some of it's out of our control, but every day I wake up are we doing everything we can to win right now? And that's a challenge for all of us. And to our players' credit and to the staff's credit, they're doing that. They're trying everything they can. And some of it's out of our control, but some of it isn't. So we got the things that we can control. Let's control the best we can.
All right, so it's time to get our pick for this one. West Virginia, UCF, as I mentioned earlier on in the show, Rich Rod 21-8 as a Division I head coach when coming off a bye. UCF is now losers of 9 straight in the month of October. So for whatever reason, hasn't been a great month for them over the last couple of years. I have been picking against West Virginia a lot this year, and even though I think UCF may be a slightly better team, and it's hard for me to say it because coming into the year I didn't think they'd win 3 games. They've obviously done past that at this point, or at least right up to it, but I just think this is a great spot for West Virginia. I mean, they've been against it the last couple of weeks situationally, just wasn't good for them, especially with Kansas, and then they had their bye week, they off a loss against Missouri. You go there, you get smacked around. and it was kind of a bad situation against BYU on a short week. It just hadn't set up right for them. This week they do. They get the week to rest, recuperate, find some answers. You got UCF who just lost on the road last week in a physical game. I'm going to go with West Virginia here, Gene. I think they get back in the win column. They get that third one of the year, and I think it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be a low scoring game, but I'm going to go with West Virginia getting that dub this weekend in Orlando.
Well, now you're talking. Okay, you pick me back up on the corner over there. All right, I'm back in the car with you. Now you're talking. Now you're talking. Absolutely. I'm going with the Mountaineers for this one. Like you said, I'm not even sure about a low scoring game, but I think West Virginia would do enough, put up enough points, get enough stops on defense to win this game. I'm going with the Mountaineers.
So there you have it. We're both on the blue and gold this week, and I don't know when the last, not blue and gold, old gold and blue. Probably the first time in a while, I'd say. I don't know the last time we both picked West Virginia. Maybe in the backyard brawl. Maybe.
Can't think. I believe so. Yep.
Or no. Remember, I picked Pitt.
You did pick Pitt. That's right.
For the first time.
That was good. You picked Pitt, and you gave us all the joke that we needed. Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know when the last time. Maybe been Bobby Moe in week 1. Who knows? But let me and Gene know your thoughts about this week's game in the comments section. Also include your picks in the comments section. If you get all 5 right, you get Eugene's autograph. And if you are a winner of past weeks and we haven't reached out to you yet, please do so. Reach out to us on X at SI_WView or just hit us up in the comments. We'll go back and make sure we didn't miss anything. But that'll do it for us here on this week's edition of the Walk Thru GameDay Show. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button here on our page. It helps us out, helps us get more views, reaches more corners of this West Virginia fan base. And also, if you or anybody that you know is wanting to potentially sponsor this show, have your people reach out to my people, a.k.a. just me. We want to keep this show free in future years. So in order to do that, we're going to need a little bit of help. So please have us get in contact with somebody that if it's you or somebody you know that wants to sponsor this show, we greatly appreciate it. And so make sure you go back to check out the Between the Ears shows earlier this week. We had some stuff on Rich Rod in the transfer portal, also about his start versus Signetti. So a lot of stuff going on. We'll be back on Saturday to recap the action between West Virginia and UCF on the Mountaineer Postgame Show. So until then, take care, and we'll see you on Saturday.